We are in the process of admitting our partners, and we will get started shortly.
Oh shoot, am I muted?
I have a question also. Is this for Riverside County or Coachella Valley? Lindsay?
It's Riverside County homeless point in time.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Of course. While we wait for our partners to join, if you wouldn't mind putting your information into the chat box, your full name, agency that you represent, and email address. We use this for attendance for these meetings. And then also in the chat, I've already added a link I'm getting an that includes all of the documents we're going to be referencing this afternoon. So if you want to take a couple minutes to look at that, you're going to find it in the chat box. Please. Thank you, everybody. I see that AJ is on. Good afternoon, AJ, our youth point in time count coordinator for 2022.
Afternoon, everybody.
You have the RP87 engine or speaking for whatever.
Oops. I'm sorry about that.
Not make any hasty decisions right now, so let's figure out.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is 2 p.m. and we will give our community partners a couple more minutes to join. If you wouldn't mind muting your microphones while we wait, I would appreciate it.
Whoops, I just hit the wrong thing. Sorry. Mute.
Jim, it's so nice to see you here this
Hey,
afternoon.
Laura. I know it's been forever. I've been
It
buried.
has. We miss you, but
I know,
we know you're doing great things.
Busy, crazy. But yeah,
Welcome.
I can't stay for long. I have to interview someone at 2:30, but
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. We are still going to give, if it's okay with everybody, our partners another maybe couple of minutes to join. And then we will get started. While we wait, in the chat box, you will find a link to some of the documents we're going to be referencing this afternoon. And if you wouldn't mind adding your information as well, full name, email, and agency you represent, so that we will know who was in attendance today. Monique, can you give me the go ahead when you're when the slide's ready to go? Take your time. We'll have a minute or so.
Yeah, we're good.
Ready?
Go.
Thank you. Thank you, Monique.
Yeah, just know that when I click a slide, when you say go, it takes a few seconds. So I probably clicked it and then you say go and I probably still clicked it. Just give
Okay.
it a few seconds.
Thanks. And then just as an FYI for everybody that is joining us today, we are recording this meeting so that partners that were not able to join us today can view these planning sessions. We will post this recording on our website as well. So it's always good to be able to record these. Okay. Thank you. It's great to see all of our partners here. And I think I was able to allow everyone to enter without having them held in the lobby. So that is great. We are up to 54 partners. Jean Kennedy, welcome to you and your team. And it is 2:05. We will go ahead and move forward with beginning our meeting today. Good afternoon once again to everybody. My name is Laura Gonzalez, and I am part of the Continuum of Care team through the Housing and Homelessness Prevention and Workforce Solutions Department in the county. And I am privileged to be here to provide updates regarding our planning efforts for the 2022 point in time count. I've done this count. I've participated in this count. This is my third year. And along with a lot of you, I've learned a lot in the process, and we are excited to plan a successful count in 2022. So just to cover the agenda for today, I will be providing all of our partners with some planning updates. We will have a presentation from our community and government relations team regarding publicity and awareness for the point in time count. And then we will talk also our GIS analyst, Nathan Chung, is going to be covering some information about our soft count as we prepare for the point in time count. Generally, if you have been able to join us in previous meetings, we conduct some work groups, work group sessions. Unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties today, we won't be doing the breakout sessions. However, we will be able to join AJ Vasquez, who is our youth point in time count coordinator and also part of the outreach team for Operation Safe House. And he is going to provide us with some updates about the youth count and definitely will let us know how we can help with that effort as well. As all of you know, we do have a dedicated count, a dedicated youth count for Riverside County. It's very important. So there's a lot of planning that has been going on there. Next slide, Monique, please. Okay, so just wanted to once again remind some of you that the 2022 count in Riverside County, we are promoting it as more than a count. We definitely want to take advantage of the time that we engage unsheltered individuals by increasing community involvement, getting more volunteers on board. Once again, our goal is always to conduct the most accurate count and include everyone that is facing homelessness in the count and in the data that we submit to HUD. The more than a count focuses on our efforts to um, engage individuals and, if possible, on that day, link them to housing and housing services. We will definitely be working with our district outreach teams, and we will be using our mobile app, which is very user-friendly and definitely allows us to do a lot more using the geolocation features that it has. And then finally, for our dedicated youth count, conducting the Youth Connect events, which we refer to as Come and Be Connected events throughout the county during the count. So it's definitely an enhanced count from previous years, but also requires a lot of coordination and planning before. Next slide, Monique. Some updates regarding the dates for the counts. Like I mentioned, we will have the street-based count beginning Wednesday, January 26th. It's a morning count from 5:30 to 9:30. We will have our dedicated youth count that will also start Wednesday, January 26th, but will be a 3-day count in the afternoon, 2 to 8 p.m. We will have a service-based count that serves as our backup in case we miss anyone when we conduct the street-based count. And then we also have the unincorporated area count throughout Riverside County. And then finally, like I mentioned, the Come and Be Connected events that we are hoping you all can help us promote so that we can get a good turnout and that we can connect youth to community services. Next slide, please. In previous community planning meetings, we had mentioned that we do our best to follow HUD guidance when it comes to the count. And HUD did release their guidance for the 2022 count in November. It's a collection notice that informs the continuum of care of the information that must be collected to successfully complete the homeless count in 2022. We reviewed that notice thoroughly and pulled all the relevant and important information. We were able to submit the methodology for Riverside County to Continuum of Care this morning. And the membership or the Continuum of Care approved our methodology, which is really not much different from the 2020 count. As some of you know, we don't want to have too many changes in the way that we collect the data from one year to the other, because we want to be able to compare one year to the other year, as well as identify any trends that we might see as we collect PIC count data every year. So in that link that I put in the chat that has the Google Drive, you can see the methodology for Riverside County that we presented and was approved by the COC this morning. If you are interested in also reviewing the collection notice that was released by HUD, that is also a document that you can find in the Google Drive. Next slide, please. Okay, and before I continue with timeline and important dates, does anyone have any questions regarding the methodology and kind of our process when it comes to following HUD guidance about the homeless count? Okay. Timeline and important dates. The youth, I put some tentative dates. We have shared some dates with you in the past, and they change a little bit because of things that sometimes may be out of our control, or we want to give it a couple of days to make sure everything is good to go. And so these are some important dates that we thought you might be interested in. We had a very successful youth incentive drive in the month of November, end of November. Thank you all for being so generous. I know a lot of our partners were able to donate many items that I can't even begin to count. Hygiene products, socks. We get tons of socks from our community partners. So it was a great, great effort. Monique Guerra, our homeless youth coordinator, kind of led that effort, and she did wonderful. And once again, the response from our partners was great. Volunteer registration did open early December. We're very happy that we are now collecting volunteer registrations. As of today, we have 119 volunteers that have logged on and created an account using our Better Impact software. So we are well on our way to collecting or recruiting volunteers for the count. We definitely are continuing with our planning meetings. Today is our 4th meeting. We will have another community planning meeting in January, mid-January, which will be our last before we begin the count. We will be finalizing the 2022 survey tool. We presented that survey tool as well to our continuum of care today, and I'm going to review it with you today, just so that you can kind of see what areas or what questions were edited, either because of HUD guidance or feedback that we received from our community partners. We have been collecting and purchasing some of the incentive items that we need. We are actually waiting for delivery of those to our offices, which will probably happen by end of December. And then we will be able to start putting those together by early January. Volunteer training. I know a couple of you have asked about volunteer trainings. Because of COVID, the volunteer training will be virtual. We will schedule a virtual training, kind of like what we're doing now. We will record that training. And so any volunteers that have already registered and want to attend that training, they will be able to do so. But if anyone misses that training, we will record it like we are now, and we will share it with registered volunteers. And that's the way that they will be able to fulfill their training requirement. Once again, HUD requires that we train our volunteers. And so it's very important to have all of our volunteers registered. Let's see. Volunteer recruitment will close January 18th. I'm getting a little bit of noise. I don't know if anyone can just make sure that you have your mic muted. Oh, thank you. I see someone muted. Volunteer recruitment closes January 18th, important date. So please, please, please encourage your community partners and anyone that's interested in volunteering to register as soon as possible. And then January 26th is the Riverside County homeless point in time count. Next slide. Okay, so I think this includes a little bit of what I just mentioned, the survey tool. We are very close to finishing that and finalizing it. The volunteer training will include, a big portion of it will include how to download that app onto your phone, and how to use the survey. Although it is very user friendly, I really like this app because volunteers don't have to make decisions in terms of skip logic. the survey does that for you. But also it volunteer training just point out some important things on the survey, as well as gives volunteers the opportunity to practice using the survey. Once they do the training, they can actually go and interview or survey anybody that they want. The data is submitted, and then it doesn't cause any problems. So it's good for volunteers to have that so that they can practice using it, so that when they are out in their community, they will be able to, or they will be familiar with the survey. I mentioned incentives. I think our goal, our goal will be that incentives will be available beginning January 10th. And so we will be communicating with our city leaders to make arrangements for either pickup of the incentives or drop-offs if needed. For 2020, for the 2020 point in time count, we did have a service provider in the East County in the desert area that was able to collect all of the incentive bags for that area. And then our community partners or city leaders were able to go to that location to pick up their incentives so that they didn't have to come all the way to where our offices were. And so I'm gonna put it out there, if there is a community partner or a city leader that has that ability to be able to hold the incentives for the desert region, if they wouldn't mind just letting me know that they can do that, and then we'll make arrangements to get those over to that area so that they'll be closer to for pickup. Any questions about incentives? No? Okay. I wanted to provide an update about specialty counts. As you know, we have our service-based count that is kind of a backup to our general count. We work with service providers, and we encourage them to partner with us. And during the week of the count, if they provide services where there may possibly be individuals that are experiencing homelessness that maybe were missed on the day of the count on the 26th, that they would be able to count them and interview them there. And so this is an effort that right now we are working on by reaching out to all of the potential service-based count partners. So that is definitely happening now. And if you are interested in being a service-based count partner, always let us know. But if you're on our list, we're going to be calling you to see if you can participate. The same thing with the unincorporated area count. We are working with the key agencies, which would be our Riverside County Sheriff's Homeless Outreach Team that kind of leads that piece, along with our behavioral health outreach, code enforcement, and other partners. We had one kind of leads meeting in November with some of these partners so that we can kind of have a structure to our approach. And we will be sending out an invitation to all of you in case you want to learn more about the unincorporated area count or want to be involved. We will make sure to let you know when that meeting is going to happen. And basically, we divide the county unincorporated areas into sections, and then we make sure that every single area is assigned to one of our partners to cover. It's a lot of very small areas, but the unincorporated area count has always been a success due to our partnership with the Sheriff's Department. So we appreciate them. And then the third and new effort or initiative that we are planning for 2022 is that Housing and Services Linkages initiative. It's a great way to approach the count. And it is only implemented on January 26th when we are out in the morning on the day of the count. We've begun to create kind of an inventory of beds that could potentially be available on the day of the count. Reaching out to our shelters, reaching out to any agency that provides or has beds. And our goal is simple, which will be to link unsheltered individuals that are engaged during the count to housing. If at that moment we are not able to do so, we will be working with our homeless outreach teams to have follow-ups coordinated after the count so that we can make sure to follow up with anyone that was engaged that may be interested in receiving services or assistance. So although it's a simple thought, it's still a lot of planning. We have had identified some lead agencies, one of them being our coordinated entry system team. They are going to be helping in many ways with this effort. And we are still kind of working on kind of the basic structure of how we're going to implement this. Housing Authority as well. Housing Authority is providing a lot of great input. So we are actually putting this kind of idea into kind of the logistics of how we would be implementing this. So once again, once we have that structure and that plan that we would like to recommend, we will set up a meeting with our partners so that you can learn more about this effort. Next slide, please. And so that is all I have in terms of updates. And before we move on to our next component of the count, does any of our partners have any questions about any of the updates that I provided? Maybe I forgot to provide an update of an important component of the count. Okay, I'm working directly with our city leaders that are great in getting back to me with their information. And so I will continue to communicate with our city leaders to make sure that you are well informed. But if in the moment or at any moment you feel like you need some guidance or have questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me. I'm definitely here to support you and help. And I see that Gina raised her hand. Go ahead, Gina. I'm glad you made it.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that I understood this correctly, that the actual volunteer training will be on the 5th. And if you miss it, then the recording will be available on the 10th of January.
That's correct. So,
okay.
So it'll give you, we'll conduct the training and give our staff a couple of days to prepare the recording and upload it to the registration website. So you won't see it. You won't see the volunteer training in the regular website that we've shared with you. Only registered volunteers will have access to the volunteer training. And once again, the reason for that is that we want to make sure that all of the registered volunteers meet all of the requirements. And that's kind of our way of being able to track who views the training. So by January 10th, we will send out that link to all of our registered volunteers. And of course, our city leaders will have access, kind of like higher level access. But that's kind of our process for training volunteers.
Part 2 to the question, because you mentioned about downloading the app on the phones. I'm assuming first you register, and then will we be able to download it before the volunteer training so we have some inkling as to what we're working with when we do the training?
Usually we have volunteers download the app during the training because we want to make sure that they're getting the correct app and the correct survey, because a lot of other COCs use the same app. We don't want them to we don't want volunteers to download the wrong survey. and we've had that in the past. So our goal is to guide them through that process. And sometimes it's very easy, but then when some of our volunteers run into an issue, they just get lost. So we don't want them to be to have a bad experience downloading the app. So that's why we wait for that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Of course. And so this brings me to something that I really enjoy when it comes to the count. I enjoy working with the city leaders, I must say. A great group to work with. Everyone is so committed and involved. But another area that I really enjoy is promoting the count and just bringing awareness to our efforts in Riverside County. And so we have a great group, a great team that has worked with us in the past, which is Riverside County Community and Government Relations team. And Leslie Abrego has kind of just been doing so many great things for us when it comes to creating our flyers for the count, our volunteer recruitment flyers, and anything else that we've done. And so we've asked her to speak to you a little bit about some of the tools that you have that maybe you can use to help support the count. Right now, we're going to have about a solid month of promoting and trying to recruit as many volunteers as we can. And so we want to make sure that you first have access to all of those tools, and that Leslie can share a little bit about some ideas and thoughts about how to best use these tools. So I know I saw Leslie join, and so I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to her. And go ahead and move to the next slide, please. And so Leslie, if you're there.
Hi, everyone. I'm here. So I'm from Riverside County DPS Community Government Relations, and everyone should have received this media kit already, and if not, you can always reach out to Laura. But the kit includes 2 flyers for volunteer recruitment, one for the youth and one for the general count. Everything has been sized for social media, and we do ask that you please follow Rivco COC. That way you can always help to reshare any content that they have already shared and help us really get the word out about the count. In the kit, there's also captions and pictures from previous point time counts, as well as hashtags that you can use. We're really trying to start a big campaign with as many partners as we can to help really spread the word and get as many volunteers as possible. And then I've also, there was inquiries about using LinkedIn. So if you have a LinkedIn account, I think it's a great idea to post on there as well. LinkedIn is a really great platform for recruitment and for volunteer recruitment as well. So you're more than welcome to use any of the flyers to post on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Everything you need is in the kit, and you can always reach out if you have any questions or if you need any more pictures, and you're welcome to tailor any of the captions or hashtags to fit really your organization's needs for social media.
Leslie, there's a question that says, I was wondering if these documents are available in JPEG or PNG.
Yes, so the ones in the social media kit, they will be PNGs, so you can resize them. And if anybody does need like the JPEG, I could always send you those as well.
Yes, and so the media kit that Leslie is referring to, once again in the chat, I put the Google Drive link, and the media kit is in that file with all the other documents we're going to be referencing today. But really, our ask is please follow us on social media. Awareness about the count is important, and we're hoping that you can do this through your social media accounts, as well as sharing those volunteer flyers with your community partners within your community. And the way that we recruit volunteers is that most of the time when a volunteer wants to participate, their interest is going to be in the community that they live in. And so we definitely need for our partners to distribute these flyers within their community. So then we'll get volunteers that register that say, I want to volunteer in the city of Moreno Valley. I want to volunteer in the city of Riverside, because that's where they live and that's where they want to help. But if we will be doing as much as we can to distribute these flyers countywide, but you have a connection within your city. And if it comes from you, I think it'll be more effective. Let's see, we have another comment from Officer Dixon. I was late, could I get the link for the media kit? Yes, it's, if you scroll up into the chat, the kind of the beginning of the chat. Oh yeah, you saw it. Okay, good. Once again, we want to make sure that you have these tools available to you. And I don't know much about social media. I leave it up to our other team members that are more familiar. But I have Facebook, so that's as far as I go with the other stuff. I'll leave it up to other individuals. Let's see, we have a hand raised. David, go ahead.
Thank you, Laura. I just wanted to highlight and reiterate the importance of this toolkit, and just to think outside the box, also not just limited to social media. As you all know, Riverside County is a fairly large, vast land where we extend from Corona all the way to Blythe. So just even thinking outside of geographical borders, you might have friends or networks through all social media platforms, whether that's LinkedIn or Twitter, Facebook, anything of that sort. Though they might not be necessarily residents within the county, or the organization extends their service reach out to the county. Definitely just take that into account. Not just limiting, if I live, let's say, in the desert area, they have to be from the desert. You might have contacts or communications outside of that might be able to volunteer throughout the county. So just encouraging that, and just posting directly the link as well is very helpful. Again, the reason why the Point in Time Count is so successful is dependent on these volunteers, and that truly relies on community members like you all. So just wanting to reiterate, the big generic ask and takeaway of this is to spread the word. If you can't volunteer, help us find volunteers. There's always a way to help, and just very grateful for you all doing that.
Perfect. I couldn't say it better myself, David. Thank you so much for that. There's so many ways that our partners can participate in the count. One of them is obviously volunteering and participating, but also definitely pre-count, just blasting out these flyers so that we can get the number of volunteers that we need. Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate your sharing all of this information with our partners. And once again, thank you for all of the behind the scenes work that you did for us. We couldn't have done it without you, so thank you so much. Next slide, please. So new to this year are the general and the youth count websites. We worked with our RCIT county team to create these very informational websites, one for the general count and one for youth count. We have been receiving some feedback from our partners that for some reason, some of our partners are not able to access the websites. We are looking into it. I've been getting a lot of feedback that it might be the browser that's causing the issue. And so if you try Chrome, if it doesn't work, try Edge. I believe that I heard that one was better for the website. So we apologize for any inconvenience that may cause, but please reach out to us if you continue to have problems, so that we can assist you and make sure that you have those links and that they're working, so that you can promote the count and link your partners to those websites. Thank you. One of our team members just posted those. Jonathan, it was Jonathan. Thanks, Jonathan. He posted both of the website links. Like I mentioned, We already have 119 volunteers registered. One of the requirements for registration is, of course, logging on and creating an account. But volunteers are going to see a liability and release form. In the past, we would just have them review it and click on a box and say, I accept. With county council's guidance, their suggestion was that we do need to have everyone sign it and submit it to us, just because it's a release. And so as you are encouraging your community to volunteer, just remind them about that release. Maybe they won't see it when they submit it. However, we will, because once they register, we have communication with them, excuse me, we will be sending reminders to those that have not submitted that liability with us. In the folder that I did send out of the documents we are referencing today, you will see the liability and release, just so you can kind of read through it if you're interested in what it looks like. We did add some COVID language to that release. An important piece of the count this year and an important thing to consider. Once again, the volunteer training will be available through the volunteer portal only, and it will be available January 10th to all of our volunteers. I think, go ahead and move to the next slide, please, Monique. I think that's all about publicity and awareness. But if you have a passion for promoting and outreach and you have good connections in the community, please help us. And now we're going to move into an important piece of the count, pre-count activities, which is, and Nathan will be able to kind of walk us through that. But our goal is to have an idea of where unsheltered individuals can be found before we go out and canvass the communities. And so we refer to that as our soft count. And we have Nathan here today, who is a GIS analyst and has a lot of experience working with the mapping software that is used for the count. And so he's going to talk to us a little bit about the soft count and kind of tell us how that's going to work and how that's going to be an important tool that we can use on the day of the count. So welcome, Nathan. You can go ahead and start.
Hi, everyone. Will I have access to share my screen?
Yes, definitely.
Let me try that. Okay. Hi, so the purpose of the soft count, like Laura explained, is to pre-identify locations of homelessness and the activities that surround it. Also, it's a planning methodology to show where areas are clustered or dangerous to reach at, or may have any safety cautious areas that we need to alert volunteers to approach in when mapping process. So this soft count will showcase all that when we trust the survey to the team leads or city leads to enter data in, and all the answers that they enter will show up on the map, either through symbols or notes. So it's important that we have all the information on there so that we can strategize how to approach certain areas. So I'm going to go over what the survey looks like. In front of you should have a made-up phone that is part of the demo. And this is when they have their phone and the access to the survey either through a QR code or a link. Also, I want to emphasize that the soft count could be done remotely because of the practice it is. I envision that most everyone that will be utilizing it will be at home or at the office, entering data in whenever they can, when they're close to the internet. But there might be others that are out in the field and looking for encampments. And this is the approach I'll be doing is at first I would have these people on the field download the app first. I will provide the link and QR code later. But the reason why is sometimes when you're in the field, we have no connection. We're offline. And that when we download the survey beforehand, it is actually stored on your phone until you have, and when you submit, until you have connection again, it'll auto submit all those that have saved on the phone. So it alleviates that pressure of did you submit it or not, and are you connected or not. So this is a best practice. I would stress this out. But I'm gonna go over the questions. It's 4 or 5 questions. And it actually have more information as you click going on. So the first question would be activity observed. The type of homelessness activity will be individual, encampment, vehicle, or other. When you select one of these, for individuals, it'll ask if it's a 25, if the person is 25 or over, or 24 and under. And then the information that you would describe would be placed in this box here. Now for encampment, vehicle, or other, same things, a box would appear and they will put in, oh, I need to update that part. But they'll update the information in this box. Now, the question that is added and wasn't there before is this area safe to approach? It stresses out if there's a need for law enforcement or to approach cautiously. I've in the past have encountered individuals that were they're nervous when approached by others. So this would give a highlight to planners of how to approach these individuals, either to send law enforcement or outreach workers that are comfortable reaching these individuals out in the field. The second question is this area have any geographical obstacles? And I listed below is it below a bridge, over a river, or rocky area? If they say yes, then they enter what type of geographical issues that might be obstacles to reach the individuals when surveying for the pit count. So this is good information that we need before we head out on the field. Now, for observed on this section, it will automatically detect the current date and time that you're entering data in. This is assuming you're out on a field. But since we're having this soft count start 2 weeks prior to count, these locations could be entered anything from 1 month to 3 months before that you can remember. I put a deadline on September of 2021. Anything before that might be too past historical that individual may not be there anymore, but we want to have the most recent, more up-to-date information on this map. Now for observed at, we have this mapping portion. Right now I'm on a demo version of the phone app here, but when in offline mode, this would pop up and I would have others click on this map icon and a map would appear. Now to put the location on the map, you simply scroll and pinch to zoom in and out of the map. Also, these icons on the right also assist in zooming in and zooming out. Now, if you hit areas that are a blank area and you notice that there might be geographical references that you might want to refer to, we have base maps on the top right icon here. And when you click on it, you have, I don't know if you can see it, but I see 8 selections, actually 15 selections of different maps. And I would use the imagery hybrid. And what this does is it puts a satellite view onto the phone. And if you remember, if you could think back of or at your location when you're offline where the individuals are at, you can zoom in and look at like if the encampment was right by the freeway or by a river, you can zoom in and put the blue icon on top of where the individual is at to lock in the location, and then hit the check mark on the bottom right to lock it in for your survey submission. At the end of the survey, when all questions are answered, you hit this check and it'll be submitted. As you can see, I didn't answer the questions here and it wouldn't let me finish the survey. But if I did, it would say survey submitted, and it'll ask you if you have another survey entry you want to enter. And that's how you would go about using the soft count survey. I hope I covered everything, Laura.
Yes.
Did I miss anything on that part?
No, I think that was a good introduction to the soft count survey. Monique, can you bring up the PowerPoint? I just wanted to provide some clarification. Nathan, did you want to go into another? We can go into the slides and then we can, yeah, we'll go into the slides. So just for clarification, the soft count is conducted by key partners, including our homeless outreach teams, city leaders, and law enforcement. And so the way that we would go ahead and move to the next slide, please, Monique. So the way that we plan on conducting the soft count is like Nathan said, it is Monday, January 3rd through January 17th. That's going to be our time frame. And Nathan has created, aside from this great demonstration that he just did, a handout with instructions that we will be providing to those that are going to be identified as partners that will participate in the soft count. And then we will provide a QR code just for access. So we don't want to just put the soft count, of course, like anything else. We don't want to just put the soft count survey where anyone can pick it up and then they can use it. We want to be strategic when it comes to who is going to be helping us prepare the soft count. So like I said, all city leaders will be provided with this code. And then they can decide within their city who is the most appropriate person to conduct the count, the soft count. And I think an important piece of information that Nathan mentioned is that even though you have one or two people conducting the soft count for the city of Menifee, let's say as an example, they don't have to be out in that location to identify a location. So if I know who's doing the soft count for my city, I can send the message and say, I observed a group of unsheltered individuals in this area. Did you already identify that area? And if that person says, oh, I haven't, they can manually enter locations. But once again, we want to give the city leaders kind of the control over how the soft count is conducted in their cities. Once again, homeless outreach teams are a great resource. So we will be reaching out to all of the homeless outreach teams. We will be joining one of their meetings in early January and then asking them to participate in the soft count. And then as sheriff's department as well. We know that some sheriffs, deputies do a lot of outreach, and they would definitely be experts in knowing where to find known locations where unsheltered individuals congregate. So we will be reaching out to those key individuals to participate in the soft count. We wanted to share with you today just to let you know that that's something that we're definitely going to be working on. And so as the slide mentions, how will the data be captured? That you can do it online, or you could do it offline or in your office, which is a great option. You don't have to have someone that is out in the field to be able to do to identify those soft count areas. Next slide, please. And so what the process is, that is kind of the process. But then what are we going to do once we, oh, go back, please. There you go. What will we do with this data? How is this data going to be used as a tool for the day of the count? And so by Monday, January 26th, because once that soft count data is captured, Nathan is going to have to kind of prepare it. So by the 24th, we will be able to share that soft count data with our city partners. And there will be 3 ways that we can provide this data. And this is where I'm hoping Nathan can help me, because I know that he's a little bit more familiar with the 3 different ways that the county can share this data to our city partners, so that it'll be a useful tool for them. So would you mind, Nathan, just kind of sharing the 3 options that our city leaders would have?
Yes, so the first option is a web map. We will provide a link for you for all the entries that the soft count entries submitted surveys points are via an online link. This will be what happened to the screen? Did it just freeze?
I don't know. Monica's gonna try. Oh, there she is. There it is.
So everyone has access. Sorry, not everyone. Everyone would have an access to the map that the link is given to. The second option we can provide is a digital PDF version for cities or individuals that can't print but would like a large map. We can create a digital version by a PDF, and you can have that emailed to you or linked to at your convenience. But the third one is a physical hard copy map. This requires us to be notified at least by January 12th if you need something printed, made and printed from what the web map offers. The reason why is at the county, we're not at the office right now. We're all working remote, and our machines are not maintained as well because we haven't been printing the past year. So in order for us to get a hold on and get our print in queue, we would need to know by January 12th for the printout of the map that we create for you. I think in the past, the maps were 5 feet by 5 feet, correct, Laura? So it's huge. Yeah. So you need to know in advance, but we want to lean away. We want to go green, less trees. So let's go for web map if we can.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for that clarification. So we know that some cities have great departments within their cities that have all of the capability to create maps. And so they really wouldn't need our assistance in that sense. But if there are some cities that, they just don't have that capability, then we're definitely willing to and able to provide assistance. However, our CI team needs to know by January 12th how you would like your soft count data provided, or if you want your soft count data provided by that physical copy map. I don't know if some of you remember last year, it was just this huge map. And if you saw, a lot of the deployment sites kind of displayed it on the day of the count so that they could get an idea of what their city boundaries look like. So we, like Nathan said, we're a bit limited in doing that, but we are willing to do it if you let us know ahead of time. We'll work to provide those. Any questions about the soft count and our efforts to prepare and know about these hotspots prior to the count? Okay, next slide. Thank you, Nathan. Great job with all of those efforts regarding the survey tool, as well as the geolocations for the count. And as I mentioned in the beginning of this meeting, due to some technical issues that we're having, we will not be able to divide into work groups for this planning meeting. However, we felt that it was definitely time to hear a little bit more about planning efforts for the dedicated youth count. In the past, we've done our best to really highlight the youth count. As a lot of you know that are service providers, youth tend to kind of stay on the side when it comes to awareness about homelessness. When you think of homelessness, you think of, that person that you see when you're driving to work under a bridge. You don't see youth there. And so one of our goals as we moved into planning for the count was to bring on board a great youth team to coordinate and plan the youth count. And we have found that person in AJ Vasquez, who is an experienced youth outreach um, um, person that has taken on that challenge of coordinating the youth count for us for 2022. And so he is going to share with you some of the efforts that he is working on. And I appreciate you kind of staying on with us to learn more about how maybe you can help with the count. I know that most of our efforts have been on the general count, that 5:30 to 9:30 time frame. Absolutely appreciate your time. But as you hear more about the youth count, we're hoping that it might trigger some ideas, or you might say, hey, you know what? I do know someone in our city that may be able to help out AJ with some of these needed tasks. So I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to AJ. I did see that he was on, and so I know he has his PowerPoint. So I'm going to go ahead and give Monique a couple of seconds to bring up his PowerPoint as maybe he quickly introduces himself to the group. Go ahead, AJ. Thank you so much for sharing with us what you're working on for the youth camp.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Laura. Yes, for those that don't know me, my name is AJ Vasquez. I work for Operation Safe House and the Street Outreach Team. I am serving as the 2022 Youth Point Time Count Coordinator. So like Laura was mentioning, the youth point time count is very similar, but also very different from the standard adult count. There's a lot of challenges that go into coordinating it, but also just doing outreach in general for the youth. And when we say youth, specifically for the youth point time count, we're talking about transitional age youth. So anybody between the ages of 18 to 24. Which is why when Nathan was talking, one of the questions was, are you under the age of 25, right? So like I said, the survey tool is dynamic in the sense that depending on the answers, we'll determine, which questions pop up, which questions arise. So I just want to take a few moments, just kind of go through a brief presentation as to what we've been working on as far as the homeless youth point time count challenges, and more importantly, on how you can help with this endeavor. Okay, next slide. So before we get into the nitty-gritty details as to the count, one thing I wanted to kind of go over was just understanding the mind of a youth. And for those that have done youth outreach, you can totally understand that it can be very frustrating at times, right? Like Laura mentioned, youth aren't always on the side of the freeway holding up a sign that says I'm hungry, or panhandling outside of Starbucks or whatever the case is, right? A lot of the youth will tend to hide. They don't want to be necessarily outed as homeless. They're going to do everything in their power to try to prevent you from, realizing that, they're sleeping out of their car every day. That could be something as, still paying for a 24-hour fitness membership, not necessarily lift weights or get cardio in or whatever, get those gains, but more importantly, just a shower to be able to still complete that, appearance of, hey, I'm not living in the car. I got everything together. I'm totally fine. I don't need any help. I got this. And when I first started working for Operation Safe House, my perception of youth homelessness was what I would say is typical of most people. Of when youth run away or they leave home, it's maybe it's because they're being rebellious. They're not listening to their parents, don't want to get a job. They just want to just hang out with their friends and skate all day, right? But as what we've learned, and in my personal experience, is that's not always the case. Yeah, that does tend to happen. Somebody's not being allowed to, live their life on their own terms. They're not quite ready to, to be an adult yet or whatnot, right? But a lot of the youth that we've encountered on the streets are either were sent to the streets or, chose to be on the streets because home wasn't as safe. The streets were actually a safer option than being at home, whether they were facing some type of physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse at home. And then another big category is, former foster care youth. Once they turn 18, their foster parents are like, gotta go, bye, right? So unfortunately, there is a very large representation of former foster care kids that are homeless, that are living out of their cars. And it's just a sad, heartbreaking thing when you talk to these youth and you hear their stories saying, they were, got tired of being, beaten by their dad every time they got drunk. And so they ended up staying with friends because that was a safer option. But then, their parents said they couldn't stay there for very long. So then they ended up living out of their car, or now they're living out of a park. And what this does to these youth is it deteriorates their mental health, from all the stress and trauma that they've experienced. So a lot of them will drop out of school. They won't finish their high school, get their GED or diploma, and that kind of really puts a hindrance on their life. And it almost becomes like a hole that they get dug that's too deep that they can't get out of on their own. So it's really challenging to help these youth because, like I said, they want to stay hidden. They're afraid of being victimized. They don't want to be out in the public area because they might get trafficked. They might get recruited into doing something they don't want to do, manipulated. Right? They're still young. They're impressionable. We talk to so many youth, doing outreach that look like they're 10, but they're 19. They're a prime target for somebody looking to exploit them. It could be something as simple as saying, hey, you know what? It's cold out here. I can give you a place to stay, or I can give you a blanket, I can give you some food, I give you a ride. Then sooner or later it'll turn in, okay, well, since I did something for you, you need to do something for me now. Something simple as that. And when you're, 18, it was freezing cold last night, there was frost on my car, you're going to weigh your options. You're going to be more willing to, take that risk of he seems trustworthy or they seem trustworthy. And then all of a sudden you're wrapped up into it. So, like I said, with that challenge comes, a lot of issues that we have to address when trying to assist in these homeless youth, let alone count them. Next slide. So in one major way that the youth point time count differs from the standard adult count is it's done over 3 days continuously. So January 26th, 27th, and 28th from 2 to 8 p.m. Generally, that's when we tend to see a lot more of the youth that are out and about, whether or not they're done with school, or they're done with their classes for that day, or they're just, it's time to, head out. They've been sleeping all day and now it's time to, find their food or whatnot, right? So that's why we want to focus on the youth for those 3 days because they tend to move around a lot as well. Can we go to the next slide? So like I said, these are some challenges that we've identified, doing street outreach. So the youth don't tend to stay in one area for more than, a long period of time because again, they don't want to be, found, so to speak, or they're afraid of being exploited, don't want to run into, the same person, or maybe they're fleeing from somebody. So they might be in Big First Park one day, and then they might come up to White Park, then they might go out to Movell, then they can end up in the desert. So another reason why we'd like to do it over those 3 days is because we can run into a youth that's homeless, actively living on the streets on Friday, but they were in a different part of the county a few days prior, right? So we want to make sure that for the street-based count, that we really saturate the areas of known hotspots where we know you tend to congregate, where we know where we've encountered them in the past. So that way we can try to catch them. And again, like I said, it's a 6-hour window, but during that window, it's done over 3 days. So that gives us 18 hours to try to catch them, which is what we need. Because like I said, they're really good at trying at hiding, or maybe they moved on to another location, greener pasture, so to speak. They have more success. They hear from friends that, hey, it's easy, police don't mess with you over in this city, so they're going to go over there, right? So and again, they try to blend in. Next slide. So the basic planning components that we're trying to do with these challenges in mind is, again, like I said, the street-based count. We want to identify deployment sites, but we also kind of came up with certain events to try to entice these youth to come to us. And I'll get to that here in one moment. So we'll go to the next slide. So the street-based count, this is what we're all used to. It's the bread and butter of what the youth point time count is. But like I mentioned to you before, because it's done over 3 days, that means we really need a lot of boots on the ground. We need a lot of volunteers. And so what I'm asking for the community from everybody is, if you are able to help out for the youth-based count, I would love that. We can offer 3 different shifts, either the full shift, 2 to 8 p.m. Do that, that'd be phenomenal, or 2 to 5, 5 to 8. If you can only do a couple hours, we can be very flexible. But because it's done over those 3 days, we need as many volunteers as possible. And if you can only do maybe one of the 3 days, could be the Friday, great, totally understand. What I'm really going to be relying on is experienced street outreach workers to help lead these teams of 3 to 4 volunteers that are going out to the streets to count. And the primary reason why I want experienced outreach workers to be the team leaders is we've all, being an outreach worker myself, we're used to that type of environment where we can assess a scenario and say, you know what, this might be a little too dangerous, or we can say, no, this is still approachable, that kind of thing. Right? Because again, safety is paramount. We want to make sure that everybody stays safe. Not only us, but also the clients that we're trying to help out as well. So like I said, I've already reached out to CityNet, to Swag, to Step Up, to Hope, asking to see, what type of commitment we can get to help for the youth point time count. Completely understand, on Wednesday might be busy in the morning, but what about Thursday or Friday? That kind of thing, right? And then as far as deployment sites goes, we are trying to identify as many as possible. So I want to get as many as possible so that way we can dedicate more time to actually walking the streets, trying to encounter these youth. Because if we only have one deployment site, it might take 20, 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes in traffic to get out into the field or the area that you're assigned to survey, and that just cuts down on the actual survey time. I see a hand raised. Yes, Laura?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to reiterate for our city leaders that I did email all of them asking them if they are aware in their city of any potential deployment sites for the youth count. And so once again, you are the experts in your city. You know what areas we may be able to use. And so any leads or any suggestions or recommendations in some deployment sites in your cities are greatly appreciated. And you can always just reach out to AJ and let him know if you have any ideas. Maybe he already reached out to that agency, but maybe he hasn't. And so that is where all of our city leaders can help the youth count. So we appreciate you keeping us on the back of your mind for the youth count deployment sites.
Perfect. Well said. And to build on top of that note as well, so say your city isn't conducting a youth point time count, at the very least, if we'd be able to use your facility, whether it's City Hall, the local police department, that kind of area on a Thursday or a Friday. It doesn't have to be all 3 days. It can just be at least a couple of the days. I mean, I would love 3 days. That would make my job a lot easier, but I totally understand, there's a lot of time commitment. And so even if it's just like I said, a couple days or even 1 day, a few hours, that kind of thing, that can be of great help. Because like I said, the whole point of having these established deployment sites within the area is dedicating as much time as possible to actually counting and searching for these youth. Because again, keeping with the theme of the overall point of time count is this is more than just a count. We want to get these youth connected to resources, try to help them as much as possible for the ones that are open and willing to accept it. Next slide. Not sure if I'm frozen. It's okay.
There it is.
Perfect. So we've already gone over some of the challenges, but one thing that I haven't mentioned yet is it is partially conducted at night. And I completely understand for safety reasons if you're not feeling comfortable being out on the streets at night, because I mean, the homeless youth, they're not going to be, hanging out in front of the middle of a parking lot that's well lit. Sometimes it might be in a little bit of a darker area that might be a little bit more sketchy. So again, safety is paramount. Completely understand. Even if you want to stick to the daylight hours, that's why we have a 2 to 5 p.m. shift, right? So we want to make sure that we try to cover as much ground and also, like I said, accommodate everybody's schedule and comfort level, but also more importantly, stay safe. Next slide.
AJ, can you talk a little bit about what would be an ideal youth count volunteer? I know we always use the term, and you might already be talking to it in your slide, and if you are, that's fine. But we always talk about the youth-friendly volunteer. So I don't know if you want to mention that.
No problem. And normally I said I address that in the volunteer section, but this is a perfect time to go over it. So yes, so with youth, they tend to not be very warming or welcoming to authority figures, right? Whether it might be law enforcement that's dressed in full uniform, or somebody that reminds them of their parents or their teacher, in a suit and tie, that kind of thing, right? So when we look for volunteers, we're looking for what we say youth friendly. So somebody, like I said, t-shirt, jeans, that kind of thing. Somebody that's approachable, that, is welcoming, that, doesn't have that, authority type look to them or whatever the case is, right? That's one of the reasons why I'm actively recruiting at UCR, trying to get students. So who better than to reach out to these youth than people within that same age range, especially, if they're in, a program that there might be, in behavioral health, if they're like consider be a social worker, that kind of thing. That is all experience that a classroom cannot really provide, right? Where you're actually conducting the count, where you're actually a boot on the ground and actually working towards what your career goal is and getting real life experience towards that. So like Laura was saying, we want to make sure that we try to get youth friendly volunteers. Now, does that mean we won't accept anybody? I mean, we can find something for you to help out with, because like I said, we have other programs that we're trying to do, but ideally that's what somebody we're looking for. So either young adult in terms of like a college student, that kind of thing, but somebody that seems approachable to somebody that but that's not very, like I said, trusting of authority figures, that kind of thing. Okay, so I've already touched on deployment sites, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. Perfect. One more. Sorry, so sorry. There we go. So, like I said, we've gone over the challenges of trying to identify these youth and trying to find them. So for this year, we want to kind of entice them to come to us, right? So we've created these events called Come and Be Connected. So there's one per supervisorial district, and this event is more geared towards the youth to be like a resource fair, resource oriented. So we created a flyer, which I'll show here in a moment. We're going to blast all over social media. Monique has done a great job of sharing that already with the on Instagram on the Riv COC Instagram account. But we want to disseminate that information as much as possible, so that way these youth can come to us, right? Make our jobs a little bit easier, entice them to come to us, where they can get resources, get connected, get help with signing up for CalFresh, IEHP, mental health programs, housing programs. For example, Operation Safe House, we have a transitional living program for 18 to 21-year-olds, and they're going to have a booth set up. So that way, anybody that's in the age range that's homeless can fill out an application, right? And also, by the way, if you're homeless, I have a couple questions for you, and complete the survey right then and there. Okay. So like I said, these events are meant to be resource-based, but also it's a component of the point in time count where they can come to us. And that's, like I said, the vision. It's a positive atmosphere, something that's welcoming for these youth. Because like I said, based on their past history of trauma, they may not be trusting of authority figures or whatnot. But like I said, we want to stick to the theme of the count, where this is more than just a count. Next slide. So for District 1, it's going to be held at the Stepping Stones Tay Center, which is over on University in Eastside Riverside. It'll be held on January 27th from 2 to 6 p.m. Next slide. And I can email this information out to anybody that requests it in their districts. Like I said, we're going to send out the flyer, so that way, if you can't copy it so fast, I'm going to send it out to everybody. One more slide. Perfect. District 2 will be held at the Rubidoux Youth Opportunity Center over on Mission Boulevard. It'll again be on January the 27th from 2 to 6 p.m. Next slide. District 3 will be held at the CFLC Empower Youth Opportunity Center in Hemet. It'll be on Wednesday, January the 26th from 2 to 6 p.m. Next slide. Out in the desert, we have coming up on Friday the 28th of January from 2 to 6 p.m. at the Indio Wind Center. It's a youth opportunity center off Monroe. Next slide. And in District 5, it'll be held at the Arena Tay Center in Paris, also on Friday the 28th from 2 to 6 p.m. Next slide. And if you notice, all of those areas or all of those sites are youth friendly. Again, we want to keep to the theme of being a welcoming environment, a positive environment where these youth can get help that they need, that they were looking for, and also be part of the count as well. Right? Now, a common question that we get all the time is, what if I can't get to the arena? Say I'm in Moreno Valley and I don't have a car, I can't get there. What we envision, and this is similar to what the service-based count is having what are called come and be connected sites. So like I said, these sites are different from events, where an event is like the resource fair. A site is just a place where we can tell youth, hey, you can't make it to the Tay Arena in Paris. You can go to the Moreno Valley Youth Opportunity Center, get resources, and be counted there, right? Or a resource list, so to speak. And that way they get connected to people that can help them with further resources. See a hand up, Monique?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something real quick, which I'm sure everyone knows, but just to make sure, I have gotten a few emails asking about these come and be connected events and then the dates, and asking if youth should wait until then to be connected with services. And the answer is no, they shouldn't wait. If you are with a youth who needs housing or resources now, please go ahead and connect them if you can, if you know of the organization. If not, please feel free to send me an email and we'll make sure to get them connected with the right people. I know I send lots of emails to AJ, so he's always taking care of the youth that come up on a daily basis. So no, don't wait until the 26th or until the Come and Be Connected events, and don't tell your youth that they can't get services until then. They're always welcome to provide us their information, and please let us know when you do find a youth in need so that we can get them assisted and connected. So thank you everyone for all your support and your emails, and just making sure that youth are getting the help that they need.
Well said, yeah.
Gina, there is a flyer. I can put that, AJ, if you want, I can put the flyer somehow in the chat, PDF.
Yes. Yeah, if you'd be so kind, I greatly appreciate that. And like I said, and with that flyer, actually, if you want to, Monique, real quick, go to the next slide. One more, I'll come back to that one, or I know that one. Perfect. So that is the flyer. Okay, so that's what we'll drop into the chat box, so that way you can spread this word to any client that you come across. Put it on your social media accounts. Again, with the volunteer recruitment flyers. Like I said, what we want to do, the whole purpose of creating these Come and Be Connected events is to get youth to come to us and be counted. Historically speaking, the feeling amongst street outreach workers when they see the reports of how many youth get counted as part of the point in time count is, generally speaking, that they're an undercounted population. I want to say that, in 2019, the last time that we did it, or 2020, I believe, I can't quote me on this exact figure, but I want to say it was around 320 or so. And like I said, if you've experienced, or if you're an experienced outreach worker, and if I were to ask you, do you think that number 320 countywide is accurate? You're going to probably say probably not, right? So again, like I said, we want to create an accurate account and also get these youth resources that they need. So to build on what Monique said, if you have a client, as much as we want to, have youth counted, it's better that they get resources right now, right? There's no reason why, they should be waiting to be part of the point in time count. If they're homeless today at this moment, give me a call. Our age range is 11-24, and we can try to get them the assistance that they need. I see a hand up. I'm sorry, I don't know who it is. It just came up.
It looks like it's Viviana Castillo from Moreno Valley.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Viviana. Okay, I don't know. We can't hear you, but please feel free to raise your hand again if you are ready. I don't know if you unmuted your
Gotcha.
mic.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. And it looks like you said it was an accident. Happens to me all the time. But real quick, like I said, if you can, ways that you can help with these Come and Connected events, if your agency does, like I said, if they offer mental health resources, if you work with, transgender or LGBTQ community, by all means, we would love to have you as a vendor at these events. Monique is doing a great job of organizing those events along with the Youth Commission. And that's brings me to a great point where we're actually reaching out to high schoolers to help with these events, to help plan it, to help to disseminate the information, to try to get them to help out as much as possible. And so, like I said, you can do your part by, if your agency can help out, transitional age youth to set up a booth there, or just by at the very least sharing the information about the events, so that way they can come to us. Yes, Laura.
I wanted to also emphasize the Come and Be Connected events. There's two groups that we're kind of trying to entice to come to these events. Obviously, the ones that the homeless youth that are already on the streets, but we remember that we do have a lot of couch surfing youth that, because they are living with a friend or family on the day of the count, on the night of the count, they are not considered as unsheltered. Unfortunately, last year, Riverside County decided to start collecting couch surfing information, even though it was not required by HUD, for our planning and just to learn more about couch surfing youth that may be facing housing instability. And so the goal is to definitely connect youth experiencing homelessness that are already living in the street, but also to reach those couch surfing youth, because they definitely are in need of resources, and they are probably not connected to any kind of service provider because they're still not technically out in the streets. And so, when you think about sharing this flyer, it's about just sharing it with everyone, because you never know, you might be working with someone or engaging with someone that is actually couch surfing and is a youth. So the two groups are just as important, and we want to make sure that anybody really that is facing instability and doesn't know where they're going to be living next month is able to hopefully attend one of these events to learn more about all the services that are available to them.
Perfect. Well said. All right. Next slide. Perfect. So volunteers and volunteer training, like Laura mentioned, the volunteer portal is up. I've included the link on there. Like I said, when you register, it's a pretty simple process. Sign the waiver, send it back, and the training will be up in early January. And so, like I said, we definitely need as many volunteers as possible for this count, especially for the youth count, because like I said, it's done over 3 days. I cannot stress that enough. So even if you can help out for one of the days for 3 hours, that is fantastic. Okay. And if you personally can't, I'm sure you know somebody that possibly could. Just disseminate the information, spread the word about these events, at the very least. Because like I said, at the end of the day, yes, this is more than a count. These youth, like I said, are on the streets. They still have an opportunity to avoid becoming chronically homeless, and again, that's the whole goal of, like I said, Operation Safe House, is why we focus on the 11, 24-year-olds. So that way we can further down the road help, minimize the homeless population in our county, in our area, and get everybody, the opportunity to be able to provide for themselves and be in a stable and healthy environment. And so, like I said, with the theme of this and more than an account, those Come and Be Connected events are going to be golden for these youth. Next slide. Perfect. Any questions?
AJ, if I may.
Yes.
So I did put the link to the website in the chat. Please check out the website and engage with it. All of the flyers, including the Come and Be Connected flyers, which is also in the chat, can be found on that website. So there is a homeless youth portion of the website. So there's a tab that you can click there. And then registration for volunteer registration is also on the website. So please register. Please download these flyers, share via email during your staff meetings. Please share with all of the people in your organization, anyone you know that just wants to help and participate. It's an easy registration, and we can use all the volunteers that we can get this year, especially for our Come and Be Connected events. If you are interested in volunteering for those events, please go ahead and send AJ, Laura, or myself an email, and I'll put that info in the chat as well. Please let us know if you are interested in also being a vendor at the Come and Be Connected event. So if you provide a service and we haven't connected yet, for you to come and be a vendor at the Come and Be Connected events, if you provide any service, housing, medical, right, educational, work, anything that your agency or organization provides, and you'd like to come and share those resources with our youth at these events, please go ahead and check out the dates, times, and locations. They're all from 2 to 6 in the evening, so they're all in the evening timeframe. If you can and there's an event by you and you want to participate, please email us and let us know. Thank you.
Gotcha. I do see a question in the chat box. It says, do you find that there is more of a revolving door with youth than adults? Is it worth including a question whether they've been helped through this effort before? Just like with most homeless population, you know, there is a high degree of recidivism in terms of, you know, they want the help and then they come into the program and it's a very structured program. And they're like, nah, don't want to follow the rules yet. And then they're back out to the streets, right? And then they'll come back again, I'm ready now. Or they can be, you know, having a drug addiction. It does happen where youth say they're ready, but not quite ready when it actually rubber hits the road, that kind of thing. But and one of my friends is a very great, or is really focused on the youth, and she's an MFT, and she said it perfectly. Youth have the greatest capacity for change in terms of their resiliency, in terms of basically everything, right? You know, whatever they've been through in the past. They are so young and still be able to process what's happened to them and be able to move on. But there are going to be some steps on the road or some bumps on the road, whether they, you know, it gets too hard and they might want to give up. Mental health is going to be a big issue, a big barrier. There's not one person that I talk to that doesn't have some type of form of either depression, PTSD, or anxiety. It's actually a red flag when I talk to youth and they say, nope, I'm fine. I'm like, really? Seriously? How are you on the streets and not feeling at least a little bit of anxious or anything like that, right? And so, like I said, with that mental health challenges, that can, will only exacerbate as the more time that they, you know, spend on the streets, being under all that stress. But like I said before, is I've encountered, you know, numerous clients that have, you know, tried and then they come back and then they fall off and then come back and fall off, come back, fall off. But that doesn't mean we ever give up on them. And like I said, they have the greatest capacity for change. And I've seen somebody who was chronically homeless, who's now doing fantastic in a program out in Fullerton. And he was, you know, he's from the Eastern Europe, was adopted, had parents that abused him, was chronically homeless for 3 years straight. And now he's doing great, you know, has a job and, you know, things are looking up for him. You know, those are the success stories that we want, that we try to look for. Any other questions?
I wanted to just provide clarification about the volunteer training for youth. AJ is going to develop the training for anyone that wants to participate in the youth count, because there's going to be differences in the way that volunteers engage and the way that volunteers implement the count. And so there will be 2 different trainings, the general count training and the youth volunteer training. There's going to be a lot of similarities because we're going to talk about the survey, how to use a survey, and what the purpose of the count is, and so forth. But there will be a specific section for the youth count where AJ is going to really prepare volunteers to kind of know what to expect, to know how to engage, and just learn a little bit more about some of the youth and they may encounter. So just so you know, there will be 2 different trainings. Any other questions for AJ, who's done a phenomenal job at coordinating the count? His experience in the field and his connections with all of our community partners really have helped us secure locations at all of those 5 facilities. They're also very supportive of the count. They serve youth, so they're very supportive, but we could not have done this without AJ's efforts and just willingness to help youth that are experiencing homelessness. So we are grateful to all of the time and energy you have put so far into the count. AJ, thank you so much.
Thank you for those kind words.
Yes. Monique, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, if anyone wants to participate in the Come and Be Connected events as a vendor or a volunteer, and you know that you can participate and attend any or all, please go ahead and drop your name and email in the chat right now. And I will send an email with more information about the events and what we'll provide and what we're looking for and what you should bring. And then the flyer will attach again. So if you know that you want to participate, go ahead and put your name and email in the chat, and I will send you an email right after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. Monique, can you, as we move forward with our meeting, can you put up the document that has the survey questions, that has the 2020 questions and then the 2022 questions? I think it's called Survey Tool Revisions or something like that. I wanted to share with our community partners. We've had 3 work group meetings focusing on the survey tool. And as you may recall, we're waiting for that collection notice from HUD, because sometimes they will tweak questions a little. And so we need to tweak our questions based on their guidance. And so I wanted to share with you some of the changes in the survey that you will notice. Not too many, but it's important for our partners to know kind of where we made some edits and revisions to the 2022 survey. Did you find it, Monique?
Did you email it to me or?
Oh, it's in the link of all the documents in the Google Drive link that we posted on the chat. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Give me.
Any questions from our community partners as we continue with our meeting?
Laura, there is one question in the chat. I see it's from Eleno. Do we have to attend both trainings if we're going to be doing both counts?
Yes, and attend, view the trainings. Once again, there's going to be some similarities with those, but once again, HUD requires us to train our volunteers so that when we are out in the community, everyone is following kind of the same procedures. And so they want us to provide a youth training and a general account training. Did you find it, Monique?
It's taking a bit to load my link for the G Drive.
And I'll go ahead and get started because I know the first. So for 2020, we did want to have some kind of control over volunteers submitting surveys. We didn't want just anyone to download the app, grab the Riverside County survey and submit surveys. And so for 2020, we assigned a survey ID to all of our volunteers. We found that was a bit time consuming. And so for 2020, what we're going to be asking of all of our volunteers is to put it in, to enter before every survey, to enter their first initial and last name, and then to enter their phone number. And that will help us keep a little bit more control over who is completing these surveys on the day of the count. As Gina asked previously, can we, download it before the training? For example, in 2020, we actually saw a survey that was conducted using the Riverside County survey that was conducted in San Bernardino. So that told us that probably someone picked the wrong, grabbed the wrong survey. And so things like that are going to happen. And so we just want to make sure that any individual that is conducting a survey for Riverside is a registered volunteer, as well as someone that has participated in the volunteer training. And once again, following HUD guidance just to ensure accuracy in the data that we are collecting. Is it not coming up? Should I try putting it up on my end?
Yeah, can, because yeah, it just keeps loading the drive link, but it won't
Okay,
let me open it.
let me see. Um, okay. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it'll come up. Okay, can you all see that?
Perfect.
Okay, thanks, Monique. And should I make it a little
Alright.
bigger? Or is that,
Yes.
yeah? Okay, so I apologize if I'm not facing straight. I'm going to be looking at my screen. The next question, so the form, once again, is in that Google link. You can review it. Once again, the work group that we have been meeting in the past, one of our team members, Josh Tomaszewski, has been kind of guiding that group, and they provided feedback, but I'll let you know what changes are HUD related and what changes are input based on our work group meetings. So for 2020, where did you sleep last night? HUD requested that we add in 2022 the response of a tent or a shed as a possible response. So we went ahead and added that. Everything is the same. And then for couch surfing, as you may recall, Riverside County is collecting that data. It is not submitted to HUD, but we find it to be useful, and hopefully as we go into the data analysis and reporting phase of the count, we can share this information with our youth providers to see if it's something that will be useful to them. But we thought in 2020 we did add couch surfing, but we didn't expand it. So we thought expanding this question would be useful to once again learn a little bit more. And so if someone says, where did you sleep last night? And they say, well, I'm couch surfing, I'm staying with friends. Then the survey would prompt 2 questions. One of them is, what do you have to exchange to stay there? Once again, when we're dealing with youth, they are very vulnerable, and they may be taken advantage by others. And so we thought we would ask that question. And then also couch surfing can be, just on the day of the count, we ask someone, where did you sleep last night? Oh, I stayed with my friend, but tomorrow I have nowhere to go. And so we added another question that asks, can you remain there for at least another 14 days? Because really it makes a difference when someone is literally going to be homeless the next day. So we can actually learn more about kind of what their situation looks like. So we expanded that question. HUD asked us to add tiny homes as a possible response for where did you stay last night? And it's kind of like the RV question. If it's a tiny home without access to water, kitchen, restroom, or utilities, or is it a tiny home that has access to water, kitchen, restroom, and utilities? Remember, the definition of homeless is someone that is living in a location that is not meant for human habitation. And so anything that does not have access to water, kitchen, restroom, and utilities is not meant for human habitation. We also added for the emergency shelter a little bit more description regarding the emergency shelter or a motel or a hotel that's paid for by a nonprofit or government entity. And then also if someone answers, oh yeah, I stayed at a hotel, I'm sorry, at a house or an apartment, we could say, oh, okay, so they're okay, they're not homeless, but we wanted to include that parentheses that says, okay, you stayed at a house or an apartment, but it's not you're not couch surfing. So once again, we cover anyone that might say I stayed in a house, but they're couch surfing. Ethnicity, HUD's requirement was to expand a little bit, not expand, but add a little bit in terms of the Latin X regarding ethnicity. So in 2020, it was just, are you Hispanic or Latino? And now it'll be, are you Hispanic, Latina, Latino, or Latinx? Race, HUD added expansions to the race responses. And I went ahead and I highlighted those so that you can see where we added versus the 2020 survey tool. Gender, our work group was already reviewing the gender question to make sure that it was appropriate. And HUD added a couple of edits to this question, which is questioning when it comes to gender. So we went ahead and did that. Birthplace, one of our partners provided feedback that they felt that we needed to be a little bit more specific when it came to birthplace, especially because we do encounter people that are not born in the United States. And so we added some instructions for surveyors so that they'll know what to put when someone says, I was born in Mexico or I was born in another country. So great input from our partners when it comes to the survey. Why homeless question 2020, those were the options. We went ahead and added family disruption. For example, death in the family, divorce, child removal, or violence, and substance abuse. I am able to participate in the data analysis of the count. And that was one of my takeaways during the last count, in that I was really surprised that a lot of individuals responded family disruption as a cause of their homelessness, especially divorce and death in the family when they rely on someone heavily of where they live and that person passes away and they are literally, they lose everything and they end up homeless. And so it was a good that suggestion to add family disruption and substance abuse as reasons for why a person is homeless on the day of the count. Incarceration, this was also input from our community partners during our work group and during the community planning meetings. We do have, in 2020, there was a question about whether they were recently released from jail or prison, and if yes, were they on probation or on parole. Our partners really feel that it was important to add an extension to that, which was, have you faced barriers in accessing housing as a result of you or your family member's arrest or conviction record? And then you can see the responses there as options. So this is definitely a question that was added based on the feedback of our community partners. The observational survey, we did add some more language in the observational surveys about accessing a location, just once again for clarification, and you'll see the difference there in the way that the question is stated in 2022 versus 2020. Why using the observational survey? We added, you cannot physically get to the location, unable to see the individuals, as a reason why you would be using an observational survey. Just added another response option. And then the youth survey, for anyone under the age of 25, we thought it would be a good idea to change the question. It's still asking the same question, but it's just less, it's a little softer. Are you currently enrolled in school? Youth might feel the need to not provide accurate questions because they feel like they're going to get in trouble or, you know, something is going to happen because they're not enrolled. And so we changed it to what is your school experience, and we added a trade school as another response option. And then I did want to share a very interesting a feedback that we got, and very valid, I think. And we will definitely work with maybe Operation Safe House for their feedback. I don't know if AJ has any thoughts about this, but you know, as we are surveying individuals and asking very personal questions, they tend to share information with us that may prompt us to have to report something, right? And so because we are extending that couch surfing question, the question from our partner was, will we be preparing a response in case someone does say, yeah, I am living with this person in exchange for this, or whatever the scenario may be. Because we are actually probing and asking, we want to make sure that we don't just hear that and then walk away. And so I wanted to kind of share that as feedback to all of you. If anybody has any thoughts about that, that they would like to share with us. I don't know, AJ, what your thoughts are. If Operation Safe House has a process that, you know, that they follow when encountering youth that say that they are being abused in some way. Or we can, you know, before the next meeting, kind of talk it through and see what we can put in place before the count, so that volunteers will know kind of what the process is if they were to get that information.
Yes, so we do come across, unfortunately, a lot of youth that face that type of situation. Like I mentioned before in the presentation, unfortunately, that does happen, where that's the reason why they're couch surfing, why they're homeless, why they're living on the streets, is they're facing that abuse at home. If they're a minor under the age of 17, then we are mandated reporters, so we do need to report that to CPS. If they are in the Tay range of 18 to 24, we partner with, you know, domestic violence shelters programs if it's a DV situation. We do offer mental health resources as well, directly through our programs, either at the mainstay or at the emergency shelter or the transitional stream program. In addition, we work closely a lot with these TAY centers, like stepping stones in the arena, where they can get, you know, the mental health help of you know, dealing with that trauma and processing what happened to them and be able to repair and move on. But yeah, those are excellent questions.
Great. So we will definitely look to our expert youth service providers and outreach staff to kind of come up with a plan, once again, to make sure that anyone that needs immediate support and assistance will receive it. I did see a question from Viviana regarding the 14 days, if it has a particular meaning. It's my understanding that does excuse me, that HUD does have kind of that 14 days as a guide when it comes to someone being so close to being homeless. And so that was suggested by one of our partners that does a lot of kind of consulting regarding the point in time count. So yes, it is very specific, 14 days. Monique, can you go ahead and put the PowerPoint back up, please? I think we are going to wrap up. Excuse me. We're going to wrap up. And just as a reminder, our next planning meeting is January 13th, same time, 2 to 4 p.m. And we will be very close to wrapping up a lot of tasks that we are currently working on. And so we invite you to please continue supporting our planning efforts, bringing your feedback and support of the count to these meetings. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, we have a great team coordinating the count our community relations department, our RCIT team, our planning team, our the entire continuum of care is behind the count. Once again, our goal is to bring resources to our partners, I mean, to our friends that are experiencing homelessness, and conduct an accurate count. So we thank you for all that you have done to help us plan more than a count in 2022. And if there aren't any other questions or comments, we will wrap up our meeting, and we will see you in the new year. We hope that everybody has the great end of the year holiday season with family, and that we are ready to go come January to wrap up and conduct an accurate count in 2022. Any additional comments? You can move on to the next slide, Monique. Our feedback, yeah, any feedback from our supervisorial district offices, city leaders, community partners? No? Well, we thank you once again for joining us today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of our presenters. Great job.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, AJ.